The cargo ship Times, Void Whisper Times, drifted through the darkness of space like a tired bird looking for a place to rest. Captain Dae-hyun sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the stars pass by on the main screen. His ship was old, patched in a dozen places, and always making strange noises, but it was his ship, and it kept flying. "Captain, I'm picking up something on the scanner," Ji-woo said from the pilot seat. She was young but skilled, with quick hands and sharp eyes. "Looks like a station about 20,000 kilometers ahead." Dae-hyun leaned forward. They needed supplies badly. Their food was running low, and the air filters were making a grinding sound that worried everyone. "What kind of station?" "Not sure. It's showing up as Outpost Krell. 7 inches the database. Looks like it might be abandoned." Ji-woo tapped her screen a few times. "Wait. That's strange. What is it?" The scanner just lit up like a festival. "It's showing some kind of warning." Ji-woo frowned at her console. Dae-hyun got up and walked over to look at her screen. Bright red letters flashed across it in several different alien languages. He recognized a few of them from his years working the trade routes. So, the words made him stop and stare. "Earthborn detected. Threat level. Extreme. Do not engage. Maintain minimum distance. 50 kilometers." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Dae-hyun started laughing. It was a deep, genuine laugh that filled the bridge. "Are you serious?" he said between laughs. "Earthborn? That's us. We're the threat?" He shook his head. "This scanner must be broken. Or it's from the war days." "Ji-woo, how old is this thing?" "We pulled it from that Vaxith wreck last month, remember? It's military grade, probably about 60 years old," she said. She didn't look as amused as Dae-hyun. "Captain, maybe we should listen to it." "Listen to what?" "A warning that says I'm dangerous." Dae-hyun walked back to his chair. "We're cargo haulers, not soldiers. We deliver boxes and try not to starve. That's the extent of our threat." The door to the bridge slid open, and Tae-sung walked in. He was the ship's engineer, a big man with oil stains permanently on his hands. Behind him came Hae-jin, their medic, carrying her ever-present medical kit. "Why is everyone laughing?" Tae-sung asked. "Did the food processor break again?" "Because I told you not to put that alien fruit in there." "Better than that," Dae-hyun said. "The scanner thinks we're dangerous. It's warning the whole sector to stay away from us." Hae-jin raised an eyebrow. "Us? We're dangerous?" "Apparently so. Threat level, extreme." Dae-hyun gestured at the screen. "But we need supplies. And that station ahead looks empty. I say we dock and see what we can find." "Captain, I really think we should reconsider," Ji-woo said quietly. "If this warning is in the system, there might be a reason." Dae-hyun considered this. Ji-woo wasn't the type to worry over nothing. But they were days from the nearest trade station, and their supplies wouldn't last that long. Sometimes you had to take risks. "We'll be careful," he said. "Just a quick supply run. In and out. If anything looks wrong, we leave immediately." "Agreed?" The crew exchanged glances but nodded. They trusted Dae-hyun. He'd kept them alive and employed for 3 years now, through pirate encounters and equipment failures and one memorable incident involving expired cargo and a very angry client. Ji-woo guided the ship closer to the station. It grew larger on the screen, a spinning wheel of metal and glass against the stars. Parts of it were dark, but some sections still had lights on. That was odd for an abandoned station. "Life support is active in some sections," Tae-sung reported, checking his instruments. "Power readings are low but stable. Somebody left it running." "Maybe they left in a hurry," Hae-jin suggested. "There could still be supplies." The Times Void Whisper Times approached slowly. Dae-hyun felt a small knot of tension in his stomach, but he ignored it. He'd had that feeling before on dozens of salvage runs. It was normal. They docked with a gentle thud. The airlock cycled through, and the green light came on. Atmosphere was good. Temperature was cold, but breathable. Taesung, you're with me, Dae-hyun said, grabbing a flashlight and a scanner. Ji-woo, stay on the ship and keep the engines warm. Hae-jin, monitor our vitals and be ready with the medical bay. Got it, Ji-woo said. She still looked worried. Dae-hyun and Taesung stepped through the airlock into the station. The corridor beyond was dimly lit, with only emergency lights glowing along the floor. It smelled stale, like air that had been recycled too many times. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floor. Creepy, Taesung muttered. He carried a heavy wrench, just in case. I don't like how quiet it is. They moved deeper into the station, checking doors and looking for a supply room. Most doors were locked, but some opened when they tried them. Empty offices. Dark rooms. Everything looked like people had just stood up and walked away one day. Then they found something strange. In one corridor, there were marks on the walls. Not damage from fighting, but something else. Dae-hyun touched one and realized it was writing in an alien language. The same message repeated over and over. Can you read this? He asked Taesung. A little. I learned some Vaxith script when I worked on their ships. Taesung leaned close, using his flashlight. It says, keep them away. No. Wait. Keep distance from humans. This is repeated like 10 times. From humans? Why would they write that? Dae-hyun felt that knot in his stomach grow tighter. They heard a sound, something moving deeper in the station. Both men froze, listening. There it was again. A scraping sound, like something being dragged. Maybe we should go back, Taesung whispered. But Dae-hyun was curious now. Carefully, they followed the sound around a corner and found a closed door. It was labeled in Vaxith, script, supply, storage, jackpot. Dae-hyun said quietly. He tried the door controls. Locked. But Taesung pulled out his tools and worked on the panel. After a few minutes, the door slid open with a hiss. The room beyond was dark, except for one emergency light in the corner. And in that corner, something moved. Dae-hyun raised his flashlight. A figure sat against the wall, and when the light hit it, the figure screamed. It was a high, terrified sound that made both humans jump back. Wait, Dae-hyun said, holding up his hands. We're not going to hurt you. The figure was an alien, one Dae-hyun recognized as Vaxith. 4 arms, gray skin, large black eyes. This one looked injured, with dark blood on its side. It pressed itself against the wall, trembling. Please, the alien said in broken standard language. Please don't. I am hurt. I cannot fight. We don't want to fight, Dae-hyun said slowly, keeping his hands visible. We're just looking for supplies. Are you alone here? The alien stared at them with wide, terrified eyes. You are human, it whispered. The scanner warned them. They did not listen. Now, you are here. The scanner warned who? Dae-hyun asked, confused. What happened to this station? But the alien just kept shaking its head. You should not be here. When they find out humans came, they will panic. They will do terrible things. You must leave. Leave now. Dae-hyun exchanged a look with Taesung. This wasn't making any sense. Why would anyone panic because humans showed up? They were just cargo haulers. Who will panic? Dae-hyun asked. Who are you afraid of? The alien looked at him like he'd asked the stupidest question in the galaxy. Everyone. It said simply, everyone is afraid of humans. Do you not know? You are the monsters of the galaxy. The persistence predators. The ones who never stop. Dae-hyun felt cold. Not from the temperature, but from the genuine fear in the alien's voice. This wasn't a joke or a malfunction. This creature truly believed that humans were something to be terrified of. I think, Taesung said quietly, we might have made a mistake coming here, and in the distance. Deeper in the station, alarms began to sound. Dae-hyun knelt down slowly, trying not to scare the injured alien any more than it already was. The creature flinched when he moved, pressing harder against the wall. "My name is Dae-hyun," he said in the calmest voice he could manage. "This is Tae-sung. We have a medic on our ship. You're hurt. Let us help you." The alien, still trembling, shook its head. "You would help me? Even though I am Voxith? After the war?" "The war ended 30 years ago," Dae-hyun said. "Before I was even born. And yes, we'll help. What's your name?" "Kyrell," the alien whispered. "I am called Kyrell." Tae-sung spoke into his communicator. "Hae-jin, we found a wounded alien. Voxith species. Can you come with supplies?" There was a pause, then Hae-jin's voice came back. While they waited, Dae-hyun sat down on the floor, keeping his distance from Kyrell. "Tell me something, Kyrell. Why do you think humans are monsters? We've never hurt you." Kyrell's large eyes studied him carefully. "You truly do not know? Your kind does not teach the young ones about the war? About what you did?" "We learned that there was a war with the Voxith Empire," Dae-hyun said. "We learned that there was fighting, and eventually peace. But nobody called us monsters in the history files." "Because you write your own history," Kyrell said. "Let me tell you ours." The alien shifted, wincing at the pain in its side. 50 years ago, my people found your world. Earth. We thought you were primitive. Your ships were slow. Your weapons were simple. We thought it would be easy to take your resources." Tae-sung snorted. "That was a bad idea. The worst idea in Voxith history," Kyrell agreed. "We sent a military fleet. 300 ships. They were supposed to make you surrender in days. Do you know how long the war lasted?" 20 years, Dae-hyun said. "That's what our books say. 20 years, Kyrell repeated. 20 years, against a species that had barely left its own solar system. Do you understand how impossible that is? We had faster ships, better weapons, more soldiers. We should have won, in months." Hae-jin arrived then, carrying her medical kit. She stopped when she saw Kyrell, her eyes widening slightly. But her professional instincts kicked in immediately. "Where are you hurt?" Kyrell pointed to its side. Hae-jin knelt down and carefully examined the wound. "This is a laser burn. It's infected. When did this happen?" 3 days ago, Kyrell said. "When the station was attacked, I hid here. Everyone else evacuated. 3 teen, and 4 in DOS. 4 in DOSes. DOS." As Hae-jin worked on cleaning the wound, Kyrell continued talking. "Maybe it helped distract from the pain. Or maybe the alien needed someone to understand. At first, the war was easy," Kyrell said. "We won every battle. We destroyed your colonies. We captured your stations. But you never surrendered. Every time we thought we had beaten you, you came back. With new tactics. New weapons made from our own. Destroyed ships. You turned everything into a weapon." Dae-hyun listened, fascinated despite himself. This wasn't the version of history he'd learned. "I was not born yet," Kyrell continued, "but the stories are told in every Voxith family. The Battle of Proxima Station. Do you know it?" "I've heard the name," Dae-hyun said carefully. "A mining station. Old and damaged. 30 humans working there. They thought it would take hours." Kyrell's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "It took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of constant fighting. Those 30 humans held the station using maintenance equipment, mining lasers, and pure stubbornness. They killed 800 Voxith soldiers." "That's impossible," Tae-sung said. 30 against 3,000 for 6 weeks? That is what everyone said. That is what made it terrifying. Kyrell looked at each of them. The commander of that station was named Hyun-soo. When we finally broke through the last door, we found him still alive, still holding a broken welding torch like a weapon. He had been injured 17 times. He should have died from any one of those wounds, but he was still fighting. Hyjin had stopped working, listening to the story. What happened to him? We retreated, Kyrell said simply. The fleet admiral ordered everyone to evacuate. He said that anyone who could survive that much damage was not something we could fight. The admiral filed a report that recommended we leave the human sector entirely. But the war continued, Daehyun said. Yes. Because our leaders thought the admiral was a coward. They thought Proxima Station was just bad luck. So they sent more fleets. And each time, the same thing happened. Humans who should have died kept fighting. Humans who should have surrendered found ways to win. It was not your technology. It was something else. Something we could not understand. Kyrell shifted again as Hyjin bandaged the wound. There was a battle in the Outer Rim. A human cargo ship, much like yours, was captured by raiders. 6 humans on board. They were supposed to be taken for questioning. But they escaped. Using only their hands and tools they found on the ship, they killed 15 trained soldiers and stole the raider ship. How? Taesung asked. Despite himself, no one knows. The raiders who survived would not talk about it. They were too ashamed. All they would say is that the humans never stopped. Even when injured. Even when trapped. They just kept coming. Hyjin finished with the bandage and sat back. You're going to be okay, Kyrell. The infection isn't too bad, but you need rest and proper food. Thank you, Kyrell said quietly. Then he looked at Daehyun. Do you understand now? Your species does not know when to give up. You do not recognize impossible situations. To every other species in the galaxy, there is a point where continued fighting means death. So we surrender. But humans? You fight anyway. You adapt. You survive things that should kill you. We're not that special, Daehyun said. We're just people trying to live. That is what makes it worse, Kyrell said. If you were warriors, we could understand. But you are merchants, engineers, doctors, normal people. And yet when threatened, every one of you becomes a fighter who will not stop. Do you know what we call your world in Vaxith? What? The Persistence Planet. We teach our children about Earth as a warning. Never start a fight with humans, we say, because they will never let it end. After the war, we sent diplomats to make peace. Do you know why? Daehyun shook his head. Because we realized something terrible, Kyrell said. We realized that humans were not even trying their hardest during the war. You were barely organized. You had no unified military for the first 5 years. You were just random ships and stations fighting independently. And you still hurt us badly. The Vaxith Empire calculated what would happen if humans ever unified completely. If you ever focused all your energy on war, Kyrell's voice dropped. The numbers said we would lose. We would be extinct within a generation. So you sued for peace, Hyjin said softly. Yes. And we warned the other species. We sent messages to every major civilization. Humans are not prey. They are apex predators pretending to be peaceful. Do not threaten them. Do not attack them. Do not even make them angry. Most species thought we were being dramatic. Some thought we were weak. Until they met humans themselves, Daehyun guessed. Kyrell nodded. The Krithian supremacy tried to invade a human colony 5 years ago. They are a proud warrior species. They thought humans were soft because you prefer peace. They attacked with overwhelming force. What happened? The colony had 300 humans. Farmers. Mostly. They were supposed to surrender immediately. Instead, they fought back with farming equipment and homemade explosives. The Krithians lost 2,000 soldiers before they retreated. Now, the Krithians have protocols too. Do not engage humans unless absolutely necessary. The more Kyrell talked, the more surreal it became. Dae-hyun had spent his whole life thinking of humans as just another species. Not particularly strong, not particularly special, just people trying to get by in a big galaxy. Is that why the scanner warned about us? Taesung asked. Because the whole galaxy thinks we're dangerous? Tae, not thinks, Kirel corrected. Knows. It is not opinion. It is documented fact. There are databases shared between species now. When a ship detects humans, it warns others. Earthborn, in the sector. Maintain distance. Do not provoke. It is standard procedure. But we're cargo haulers, Daehyun protested. We don't hurt anyone. It does not matter what you think you are, Kirel said. To the galaxy, you are all potential threats. Every human is considered a persistence predator. Do you know what that means? Predators that chase prey until the prey dies from exhaustion, Heejin said quietly. She knew the biological term. Yes, on your world, humans hunted that way. You ran after animals until they collapsed. No other species does this. It is a special kind of horror, and the galaxy sees all humans this way now. You do not give up. You do not stop. You chase your goals until you achieve them or die trying. Daehyun sat back against the wall, trying to process this. His whole life, he'd thought of humans as the underdogs, the species that got lucky. But Kirel was describing something else entirely, something that sounded almost like a curse. The alarms in the distance were getting louder. The alarms grew louder, echoing through the metal corridors of the station. Daehyun jumped to his feet, his hand instinctively going to the small plasma cutter on his belt. It wasn't much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. We need to get back to the ship, he said quickly. Kirel, can you walk? The Vaxith alien nodded, letting Heijin help him up. Those alarms are not from the station's automatic systems. Someone activated them manually. Someone? I thought this place was abandoned, Taesung said, gripping his wrench tighter. It was supposed to be, Kirel said, fear creeping back into his voice. But 3 days ago, others came. They set traps. I think they were waiting for someone. Waiting for who? Daehyun asked. But he already knew the answer. The knot in his stomach had become a heavy stone. For humans, Kirel whispered. I heard them talking before the attack. They said they were tired of being afraid. They wanted to prove that humans were not as dangerous as everyone said. Great, Taesung muttered. We walked right into a trap. They moved quickly through the corridors, heading back toward their ship. Daehyun tapped his communicator. Jiwoo, start the engines. We're coming in hot. There was no response. Just static. Jiwoo? Daehyun tried again. Still nothing. They must be jamming our communications. The group turned a corner and stopped suddenly. The corridor ahead was blocked by a heavy blast door that hadn't been there before. It had lowered from the ceiling, sealing off their route. They're hurting us, Heijin said quietly. She was right. Daehyun could hear more doors closing in other parts of the station. Click. Thud. Bang. Each sound cut off another escape route. Is there another way to the docking bay? Daehyun asked Kirel. Yes, but it goes through the main atrium. That is a dangerous area. Very open. Easy to trap people there. We don't have much choice, Daehyun said. They couldn't go forward, and going back would take them deeper into the station. Lead the way. Kirel guided them through side passages, limping on his injured side but moving as fast as he could. They passed empty rooms and dark corridors. Once, they heard footsteps somewhere above them, heavy and deliberate. Not human footsteps. The atrium was a large, circular room at the center of the station, with a high ceiling and multiple levels connected by walkways. Windows looked out into space, showing the stars beyond. In better times, it had probably been beautiful. Now, it just felt like a cage. They were halfway across the open floor when lights suddenly blazed to life all around them. bright enough to make everyone squint. Then, a voice boomed out, speaking in perfect Korean. "Welcome, humans. We have been waiting for you." Dae-hyun spun around, trying to locate the source of the voice. Speakers, hidden in the walls. He couldn't see who was talking. "My name is Velthar," the voice continued. "Commander of the Krithian Supremacy Third Fleet. Or at least, I was before my people decided to adopt cowardly protocols about your species." "Krithian," Kyrell breathed. "Oh no. They are the worst ones. They do not accept fear. They think it is shameful." Velthar's voice echoed around them. "For years, I have listened to stories about humans, how dangerous you are, how unstoppable, how every species should avoid you. I grew tired of such cowardice. So I decided to test the truth." "Test away," Dae-hyun called out. "But let my crew go first." "Let you go?" Velthar laughed, a harsh barking sound. "No. No. You are exactly what I need. A typical human crew. A cargo ship with no weapons. Perfect subjects for study." Gas began hissing from vents in the floor, sweet-smelling but heavy. Heijin recognized it immediately. "Sleep gas! Cover your mouths!" But it was too late. The gas rose quickly, filling the atrium. Dae-hyun felt his legs go weak. He saw Taesung fall to his knees, then collapse. Heijin tried to reach him but went down too. Kyrell was already unconscious. The last thing Dae-hyun saw before darkness took him was armored figures entering the atrium, watching them fall. When Dae-hyun woke up, his head felt like someone had filled it with wet sand. He was lying on a cold metal floor in a small room. No windows. One door. A holding cell. He sat up slowly, fighting nausea. Kyrell was in the corner, still unconscious. No one else. Where were the others? "Hello?" he called out. "Taesung? Heijin? Jiwoo?" No answer. Dae-hyun checked himself. They'd taken his plasma cutter and his communicator. His pockets were empty. All he had left were his clothes and his wits. A screen on the wall flickered to life. It showed Velthar's face. The Krithian looked like a cross between a lizard and a bear, with thick scales and sharp teeth. Red eyes studied Dae-hyun with cold curiosity. "Good, you are awake," Velthar said. "I want you to see something." The screen split into 3 views. In one, Jiwoo was locked in what looked like the station's control room, pacing back and forth. In another, Taesung was trapped in an engineering section, examining the locked door. In the third, Heijin was secured in a medical bay, with several Krithian scientists watching her. "Your pilot, your engineer, and your doctor," Velthar said. "All secured. All being monitored. And you, Captain, are my special project." "What do you want?" Dae-hyun asked, keeping his voice steady. "I want to understand if the reputation of humans is deserved. Are you really as dangerous as the galaxy believes? Or is it all exaggeration and fear?" Velthar leaned closer to his camera. "I have 50 soldiers on this station. I have complete control of all systems. I have automated defenses and weapons. And you have nothing but yourselves." "Velthar! Velthar!" Dae-hyun looked around the cell. Solid walls, reinforced door, no obvious weaknesses. But he'd been in tight spots before. There was always something. "Here is my offer," Velthar continued. "Surrender peacefully. Let my scientists study you. Let us learn what makes humans tick, or resist, and prove whether your species deserves its reputation. Either way, I learned something valuable." And if we resist?" Dae-hyun asked. "Then I document how you fail. I show the galaxy that humans are no different from any other species when properly contained. I restore honor to warriors everywhere who have been told to fear you." Dae-hyun thought about Kyrell's stories. About Commander Hyun-soo holding a station for 6 weeks. About farmers fighting off a military invasion. About cargo haulers escaping trained killers. If even half of those stories were true, then Velthar had made a serious mistake. You want to see if humans are dangerous? Dae-hyun said slowly. Fine. I'll give you 4 hours. 4 hours to release my crew and leave this station peacefully. Velthar stared at him for a moment, then burst out laughing. You are imprisoned, unarmed, outnumbered. And you are making demands? This is perfect. This is exactly the human arrogance I wanted to see. It's not arrogance, Dae-hyun said calmly. It's a warning. The same warning that Scanner tried to give you. But you didn't listen. 4 hours? Velthar was still chuckling. I will give you 1 hour. 1 hour to show me this legendary human danger. After that, we begin the studies on your crew, starting with the doctor. My scientists are very curious about human pain tolerance. The screen went dark. Dae-hyun was alone in the cell with an unconscious Kirel. 1 hour to escape. 1 hour to rescue his crew from 50 armed soldiers. And who knew what kind of defenses? He should have felt terrified. He should have felt hopeless. Instead, he felt something else. Something that probably explained why the galaxy feared humans. He felt determined. Dae-hyun stood up and examined the cell carefully. The walls were solid. The door was locked from the outside. But there was a light fixture in the ceiling. And where there was a light, there was power. And where there was power, there was a way out. He shook Kirel gently. Hey, wake up. I need your help. The Vaxith stirred, eyes opening slowly. We're prisoners, but not for long. Dae-hyun pointed at the light. You said you worked on stations before, right? You know how Vaxith electrical systems work? Yes. But why does that matter? Because I'm betting the Krithians didn't completely rebuild this station. They probably used the existing infrastructure, which means Vaxith systems. Dae-hyun smiled, and it wasn't a friendly smile. And I'm about to show Velthar exactly why that scanner warned him about humans. Kirel stared at him. You are planning to escape? From a locked cell? With no tools? Not planning, Dae-hyun said. Doing. Because that's what humans do. We don't accept the situation we're given. We change it. He reached up toward the light fixture. It was high, but he could jump and grab it. Now, you're going to teach me everything you know about Vaxith power systems, and we're going to teach Velthar a lesson about underestimating humans. Kirel looked at the determination in Dae-hyun's eyes and felt that old familiar fear return. The fear that every species felt when they realized they were dealing with a persistence predator, a creature that would not stop, could not be stopped. You are all insane, Kirel whispered. Maybe. Dae-hyun agreed. But we're effective. The hour had started, and somewhere on the station, Velthar was about to learn why the scanner's warning should have been heeded. Dae-hyun jumped and grabbed the light fixture with both hands. It was bolted to the ceiling, meant to stay in place. But metal got old, and bolts got loose. He hung there, using his full weight. What are you doing? Kirel asked nervously. Something stupid. Dae-hyun grunted. He swung back and forth, putting stress on the fixture. Tell me about Vaxith power systems. How do they route electricity? Through conduits in the ceiling and walls. Kirel said. But those are insulated. You cannot just touch them. The lever conduits Buddypotov. One in the plime. Buddypotov. Not planning to touch them directly. Dae-hyun swung harder. The fixture creaked. What happens if there's a surge? If too much power goes through one line, circuit breakers should trip, but if they fail, the power reroutes to other systems. Kirel understood what Dae-hyun was thinking. You want to cause a surge. Smart alien. Dae-hyun gave one final swing. The fixture tore free from the ceiling with a shower of sparks. He landed on his feet, holding the broken light. Wires dangled from it. Still live with electricity. Behind the hole in the ceiling, he could see the power conduits Kirel had mentioned. They glowed faintly with running current. If I short these wires against that conduit, what happens? Dae-hyun asked. You will probably die from electrocution, Kyrell said flatly. Besides that, there will be a surge. The breakers should cut power to this section. But Vaxith breakers are designed to reset automatically after 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Dae-hyun thought about it. The door lock will lose power for 10 seconds when the breakers trip. Yes, but the lock will engage again when power returns. You will not have time to force the door open. Don't need to force it. Dae-hyun pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around his hands. Vaxith doors stay in whatever position they're in when power cuts. Right? Open stays open, closed stays closed? Usually, yes. Then we just need the door open when the power goes out. Dae-hyun walked to the door. Stand back. He touched the wires to the metal conduit. There was a loud crack and a flash of bright light. Every light in the cell went dark. The door lock made a clicking sound, but the door was still closed. Dae-hyun pushed against it. Locked. It did not work, Kyrell said from the darkness. Give it a second. Dae-hyun counted in his head. The Krithians are going to check what caused the power loss. They'll send someone to look. 1. Sure enough, after about 30 seconds, they heard footsteps in the corridor outside. The door lock clicked again as someone activated it from the outside. The door slid open. A Krithian soldier stood there, large and armored, holding a weapon. He looked into the dark cell, trying to see what had happened. Dae-hyun still had the broken light fixture in his hands. He swung it hard, hitting the soldier in the head. The Krithian stumbled back, surprised, but not hurt through his armor. That was fine. Dae-hyun hadn't expected to knock him out. He just needed a distraction. 10 fordation. Dae-hyun for 1 fordation. Dae-hyun for Utem and ending the 10 of since. While the soldier was off balance, Dae-hyun grabbed his weapon arm and twisted, using the soldier's own weight against him. It was a trick he'd learned in a bar fight years ago. Works on humans, works on aliens. Come on, he shouted to Kyrell. They ran out of the cell and down the corridor. Behind them, alarms started blaring. The Krithians knew they'd escaped. Where do we go? Kyrell asked, struggling to keep up with his injury. To get my crew, Dae-hyun said. He checked the weapon. Some kind of plasma rifle. He'd never used one before, but the trigger was obvious enough. Starting with whoever's closest. They ran through the station's corridors. Twice, they saw Krithian soldiers, and had to hide. Once, they nearly ran into a patrol. But Dae-hyun had spent years navigating space stations. He knew how to move through them, which passages to take, where to hide. They reached the engineering section where Tae-sung was being held. Dae-hyun could see his engineer through a window in the door. Tae-sung was working on the lock from the inside, using a piece of metal he'd torn from somewhere. That's my guy, Dae-hyun muttered proudly. He checked the corridor, then opened the door from the outside. Tae-sung spun around, ready to fight, then relaxed when he saw Dae-hyun. Captain, I was just about to break out. I believe you. Come on. We need to get the others. Wait. Tae-sung held up a hand. I've been working on something while I was locked in here. The reactor for this station runs on a Vaxith design. I know those systems. I can make it unstable. Will it explode? Dae-hyun asked. Eventually, if no one fixes it. But first, it'll start fluctuating. Power surges, random shutdowns. Make all their automated systems unreliable. Do it, Dae-hyun said. Kyrell, help him. While they worked on the reactor controls, Dae-hyun kept watch. He could hear soldiers searching for them, calling to each other in their harsh language. That wasn't good. Done, Tae-sung said after 5 minutes. The reactor will start acting up in about 10 minutes. Should buy us some chaos. They moved on, heading toward the control room where Ji-woo was trapped. This was trickier. The control room was in the center of the station, and there were multiple Krithians guarding it. Can't fight through them all, Dae-hyun muttered, studying the situation from around a corner. We need a distraction. I have an idea, Kirel said quietly. Krithians are warriors. They respect honor. If you challenge them directly, they will want to fight you one-on-one. That's crazy, Taesung said. It's perfect, Daehyun said. What do I do? Kirel explained quickly. Then Daehyun stepped out into the open corridor and shouted in standard language. Velthar, I know you can hear me. You wanted to test humans? Here I am, one-on-one, leader to leader. His voice echoed through the station. The Krithian guards looked confused. Then a speaker crackled to life. You challenge me? Velthar's voice sounded amused. You, an unarmed cargo captain, challenge a Krithian commander? I'm not unarmed anymore, Daehyun said, holding up the plasma rifle. And yeah, I challenge you. Unless you're scared. There was a long pause. Then, Velthar laughed. I accept. But when I defeat you, your crew undergoes the studies immediately. When I win, we all walk free, Daehyun countered. Agreed. Meet me in the atrium in 10 minutes. Come alone. The speaker cut off. The guards at the control room door looked at each other uncertainly, then left their posts to follow their commander. That worked, Taesung said, sounding surprised. Quick, before they come back. They rushed to the control room. Ji-woo was inside, looking relieved when she saw them. Captain, I've been trying to hack into the station systems, but they locked me out. Can you unlock them? If I had a few minutes of distraction, maybe. You're about to get a lot of distraction, Daehyun said. Taesung sabotaged the reactor. When the power starts flickering, use that moment to break through their security. What are you going to do? Ji-woo asked. I challenged Velthar to a fight, buying you time. Captain, that's suicide, Ji-woo said. Krithians are trained warriors. You deliver cargo. True, Daehyun agreed. But I learned something today. The galaxy thinks humans are dangerous, not because we're stronger or smarter. It's because we don't quit. So, I'm going to go be dangerous. He left them there and headed to the atrium, Kyril following despite protests. You should not do this. Velthar will kill you. Maybe, Daehyun said. But probably not. Because I'm not actually going to fight fair. They reached the atrium. Velthar was waiting, surrounded by his soldiers. The Krithian commander was huge, easily twice Daehyun's size, covered in thick armor, and holding a massive blade. You came, Velthar said. I respect that at least. Are you ready to show me? If humans are truly dangerous? Daehyun set down the plasma rifle. He picked up a piece of broken metal from the floor instead. Not much of a weapon, but it was something. Before we start, Daehyun said, I want to tell you a story. About a human named Hyun-soo. I know that story. Velthar growled. No, you know the version where he's a hero. Let me tell you the version from his journal, which I read once. Daehyun walked slowly around the atrium floor. Hyun-soo wrote that he wasn't brave. He was terrified every single day of that siege. He wanted to surrender. He wanted to give up. Then why did he not? Velthar asked. Because his crew was counting on him. Because giving up meant letting them down. Because humans have this stupid, stubborn thing where we can't stop fighting if someone needs us. Daehyun stopped walking. He wasn't special. He was just human. And you think you are like him? No, Daehyun said. Then he smiled. I think I'm worse. Because I've got friends working right now to make your life difficult. And all I need to do is keep you busy. That's when the lights started flickering. The reactor was acting up, just like Taesung planned. Automated turrets spun in confusion. Door locks clicked randomly. Velthar realized the trick. You tricked me. There was no honor challenge. Nope, Daehyun agreed. Because I'm not a warrior. I'm a human. And humans fight to win, not for honor. The station's systems went haywire. Somewhere, Ji-woo was taking control. Doors opened and closed. Alarms blared, and Heejin, freed from the medical bay, appeared on the upper walkway with medical supplies that could be weaponized. The Krithian soldiers looked to their commander for orders. Velthar stared at Dae-hyun with something like understanding dawning in his eyes. "This is what you do," Velthar said slowly. "This is why you are feared." 2. "Yeah," Dae-hyun said. "Welcome to humanity." The station shook as another power surge ran through its systems. Lights flickered on and off. Somewhere in the walls, electrical systems screamed in protest. Taesung's sabotage was working better than expected. Velthar's soldiers looked nervous now. They weren't used to their environment turning against them. Warriors trained for combat, not for dealing with cascading system failures and enemies who refused to fight fair. "Surrender now," Dae-hyun called out. "And nobody else gets hurt. Keep fighting, and this station falls apart around all of us." "You would destroy the station?" Velthar demanded. "With yourself on it?" "If that's what it takes," Dae-hyun said simply. And the scary thing was, Velthar could see he meant it. This human would actually die rather than give up. It was insane. It was terrifying. A Krithian soldier made the mistake of charging at Dae-hyun. Before he could reach him, a chemical spray hit the soldier from above. Hae-jin had found something in the medical bay. Some cleaning agent that burned Krithian skin. The soldier fell, screaming. "Stand down," Hae-jin shouted from the upper walkway. "I'm a doctor, but I've got a whole medical bay full of things that can hurt you if you make me." 2 more soldiers tried to rush toward the control room where Jiwoo was working. A door slammed shut in front of them, controlled remotely. Then another door opened behind them, and Taesung appeared with Kyrell, both holding improvised weapons made from engineering tools. "Engineering section secured," Taesung reported. "And I've locked down your armory. Your soldiers can't get to their heavy weapons." The Krithians were starting to panic. They'd prepared for a fight with captured, helpless humans. They hadn't prepared for this coordinated chaos. Every system they relied on was turning against them. Every advantage they'd had was evaporating. "This is impossible," one soldier said in their language. Dae-hyun didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. Fear. Velthar watched his disciplined warriors becoming a frightened mob. He'd wanted to prove humans weren't special. Instead, he was proving the opposite. Everything the warnings said was true. "How are you doing this?" Velthar asked, his voice quieter now. "You were locked up, separated, unarmed. We had every advantage." "You had advantages," Dae-hyun agreed. "But we had something better. We had each other. And we had the one thing humans are really good at." "What is that?" "Refusing to accept reality." Dae-hyun gestured around the atrium. "You set up a trap. A good trap. We were supposed to be helpless. And if we were any other species, maybe we would have been. But humans don't care what we're supposed to do. We care about what we need to do." The lights went fully dark for a moment, then came back on. Jiwoo's voice came through the station speakers. "Captain, I've got full control of the station systems now. All Krithian weapons are locked down. Life support is fine, but I can change that if needed." "What are your orders?" Velthar's shoulders slumped. He'd lost. Not through combat, but through something worse. He'd been outthought, outmaneuvered, and outsmarted by the species he'd wanted to prove wasn't special. "What are your demands?" he asked Dae-hyun. "Simple. You and your soldiers leave this station immediately. You go back to the Krithian supremacy and tell them exactly what happened here. And you update your databases with the same warning every other species has. Do not engage humans. And if I refuse, then we sit here until your air runs out or the reactor actually explodes. Your choice." Dae-hyun crossed his arms. "But I'm betting you'd rather live to tell this story." Dae-hyun. "Well, Dae-hyun. Dae-hyun." For a long moment, Velthar stared at him. Then, slowly, the Krithian commander lowered his weapon. "You have won, human. Not through strength or honor, but through your species' particular brand of madness. We prefer to call it Determination, Daehyun said. Velthar turned to his soldiers. Retreat to the ships, all of you. Now. The Crithians filed out, defeated and confused. Some of them kept looking back at Daehyun, like he was a predator that might chase them, which, Daehyun realized with some amusement, was probably exactly how they saw him now. When the last soldier was gone, Daehyun's crew gathered in the atrium. They were battered, exhausted, and some of them were injured. But they were alive and together. Did we just win a fight against 50 trained soldiers? Haejin asked. Like she couldn't quite believe it. We didn't fight them, Jiwoo said. We scared them. Same result, Taesung grinned. Did you see their faces? They couldn't handle it when their perfect trap fell apart. Kirel limped over to them, shaking his head. I tried to warn you. I told you what the galaxy thinks of humans, but even I did not fully believe it until now. You were supposed to fail. You were supposed to give up, but you just kept going. That's what we do, Daehyun said. He felt tired now that the adrenaline was fading. It's not always smart. Sometimes, it's really stupid. But it's who we are. They watched through the atrium windows as the Crithian ships undocked and flew away. Small lights against the darkness of space, growing smaller until they vanished. They'll spread the word, Kirill said. Velthar will tell his people what happened here. The story will spread to other species. The humans who escaped an impossible trap with nothing but improvised plans and stubbornness. Great, Daehyun sighed. Just what we need. An even bigger reputation. It is not a bad thing, Kirill insisted. Most species will leave you alone now. They will see humans and think twice before making threats. Or they'll see us as challenges to overcome, Jiwoo pointed out. There's always going to be someone like Velthar who wants to prove themselves. Then they'll learn the same lesson, Daehyun said. The hard way. They spent the next hour making sure the station was safe. Taesung fixed the reactor before it could actually explode. Jiwoo reset the security systems. Haejin treated everyone's injuries, including Kyrell's. And Daehyun found the station's supply storage and loaded up their ship properly this time. When they were ready to leave, Kirell stood at the airlock with them. Where will you go? Daehyun asked. Back to Vaxith space. I need to report what happened here. And I will tell them that I met humans who were kind even when they could have been cruel. That matters too. Kirell made a gesture that Daehyun thought might be the Vaxith equivalent of a bow. Thank you for saving me. And for showing me that dangerous does not always mean evil. Take care of yourself, Daehyun said. They watched Kirell leave in an escape pod toward the nearest Vaxith colony, then returned to the Times Void Whisper asterisk. The cargo ship felt like home after the cold station. Familiar sounds. Familiar smells. Jiwoo took them out of dock smoothly. And soon, they were flying through open space again. Daehyun sat in his captain's chair and pulled up the ship's logs. He needed to record what had happened, for insurance purposes, if nothing else. As he typed, he kept thinking about everything Kirell had told them. Do you think it's true? Jiwoo asked quietly. All those stories about humans being these terrifying persistence predators? I think, Daehyun said slowly, that we're just people trying to survive. But maybe that's exactly what makes us dangerous. We don't think about the odds. We don't calculate our chances. We just do whatever it takes to protect what matters to us. Is that a human thing, though? Taesung asked. Or is that just a survival thing that any species would do? I don't know, Daehyun admitted. But apparently, we're really good at it. Good enough that the whole galaxy warns each other about us. They flew in silence for a while. Then Haejin spoke up. So, what do we do with this information, now that we know how we're seen out here? We do what we've always done, Daehyun said. We deliver cargo. We make our living. We treat people fairly and help when we can. The galaxy can think whatever it wants about humans. We know who we are. And if someone else tries to trap us? Jiwoo asked. Daehyun smiled. Then we'll show them the same thing we showed Velthar. That you can't cage something that refuses to be caged. Axavel. Axavel 3rd. The Times Void Whisper Times jumped to hyperspace, leaving the station behind. As they flew, Daehyun thought about that scanner warning from the beginning, the one he'd laughed at. Tuan, the one that said, Earthborn, do not engage. He didn't laugh at it anymore. He understood now what it meant. It wasn't saying humans were evil or violent. It was saying that humans were unpredictable, that they would do the impossible when pressed, that they were survivors who turned every disadvantage into a weapon. The warning was trying to protect other species. Not from human cruelty, but from human tenacity. 3 weeks later, Daehyun heard through the trade network that the Krithian supremacy had officially updated their protocols. Human vessels, to be treated with extreme caution. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Do not trap or threaten. Consider all humans potentially dangerous, regardless of occupation. Velthar had kept his word. The lesson had been learned and shared, and somewhere in the galaxy, on a dozen different worlds, in 100 different languages, new stories were being told. Stories about a cargo ship called the Times Void Whisper *, about a captain named Daehyun and his crew who escaped an impossible trap, about humans who proved once again why the warnings existed. The stories would grow with each telling. As stories do, details would be exaggerated. Facts would become legends. But at the core, the truth would remain. Humans were persistence predators, not because they were cruel, but because they were stubborn, not because they were violent, but because they refused to quit, not because they were perfect, but because they were determined. And the galaxy would continue to watch them with a mixture of fear and respect, knowing that the scanner's warning was not just about one species, but about a fundamental truth. Some things cannot be stopped. Some spirits cannot be broken. Some creatures will keep fighting long past the point where fighting makes sense. Those creatures were called humans, and that changed everything. Daehyun closed his captain's log and leaned back in his chair. Outside the window, stars streamed past in the beautiful chaos of hyperspace. Somewhere ahead was their next delivery, their next job, their next challenge. Whatever it was, they would handle it. Because that's what humans did. They persisted. And in a galaxy that valued logic and calculation and knowing when to quit, that simple refusal to give up was the most dangerous weapon of all. The scanner had tried to warn them, Earthborn, do not engage. But Velthar had laughed. He'd stepped in, and he'd learned exactly why that warning existed, just like everyone else who made that mistake would learn. For as long as humans sailed the stars, some warnings existed for a reason, and the ones about humans were the most important of all. The Times Void Whisper Times flew on into the dark, carrying its crew toward home. Behind them, the legend grew. Ahead of them, new adventures waited. And throughout the galaxy, scanners continued to flash their warnings about the species from Earth, the warnings that, more and more, everyone was finally learning to heed.